I moved into a new apartment last fall, just outside Chicago. The rent was cheap, the building was old, and the landlord was one of those guys who didn't care what you did as long as the rent was paid in full and on time. The place wasn't great, but it was quiet, and that's all I really needed. I moved in with a guy named David. He was a mutual friend of a friend. We'd texted a few times, met once before the move, and honestly, he seemed normal, chill, worked nights at a security firm, kept to himself, paid rent on time, the perfect roommate. The weirdness started about 3 weeks in. Most nights, David wasn't even home. He worked late shifts and usually slept during the day. I had the place to myself, which I liked. But then I started hearing sounds coming from his room at night. Not loud, just soft noises, like shuffling, and sometimes a low creaking, like something was being opened, then closed again. At first, I thought it was just him coming home early or grabbing something. But every time I peeked into the hallway, the lights were off. His door was shut, silent. It didn't feel right. One night, I had trouble sleeping and decided to walk to the kitchen for water. On the way back, I passed David's room and froze. His closet door was slightly open, just an inch, but enough to see that it was pitch black inside. I stood there for a second, listening. Then I heard it, a soft click from behind the closet door, like a latch unlocking. I whispered his name. "David, you in there?" No answer. I reached for the doorknob to push it shut, and it slowly closed on its own. Not violently, not loud, just quiet, deliberate, like someone didn't want to be seen. The next day I asked him about it. He shrugged it off, said he sometimes forgets to close the door. Maybe the AC blew it shut. But that night, I went into his room while he was out. Yeah, I know it's messed up, but I had to know. The closet was empty, no clothes, no boxes, just a bare floor. And at the very back, I saw something I still can't explain. A seam in the drywall, like a door outline. Light scuff marks on the floor, like something had been pushed open recently. It wasn't part of the original wall. This thing had been cut in. I called David out on it the next morning. He looked at me for a long time before finally saying, "I didn't build it. I just didn't want to know what was behind it." That's when I realized he wasn't using the door, but someone was. That night, I did something I'd never done before. I set up my old iPhone across from my bedroom door, propped up between books, just to see if anything weird happened while I was sleeping. The next morning, I reviewed the footage. For the first 5 hours, nothing. Then, at 3:18 a.m., I saw it. My bedroom door opened, very slowly. A figure stepped into the frame. I couldn't see a face, just a tall shape in black, wearing gloves, something hanging from their neck, maybe a camera or flashlight. They walked up to the side of my bed and just stood there, breathing, watching, for over 3 minutes. They turned, walked out, and closed the door behind them. I called the police, filed a report, gave them the footage. They found another hidden crawl space in the wall behind David's closet, just wide enough to move through the walls. Inside it, food wrappers, a sleeping bag, a knife, and a GoPro. When they reviewed the GoPro, it had over 40 hours of footage, mostly of me, sleeping. David moved out the next day. The crawl space was sealed, cameras installed. I haven't heard a sound since, but I still don't sleep well, because the last video on the GoPro was filmed 2 nights after the police took it. And in that footage, I was sleeping, but the closet door was open. This happened during a solo drive across the Midwest last summer. I was moving from Indiana to Colorado for work, and instead of flying, I thought I'd make a road trip out of it. Take back roads, stop in small towns, enjoy the freedom. That trip ended any idea I ever had about being a lone traveler, because someone, or something, followed me, and they knew everything about me. It was late, around 11:45 p.m., when I pulled into a gas station off a mostly deserted highway in Kansas. Just a single pump, flickering lights, and an empty convenience store that looked like it hadn't been stocked in months. The kind of place that feels like it's waiting to be in a horror story. As I was filling up, I noticed a man leaning against the ice machine by the front door. No car, No phone, just staring at me. He looked to be in his 50s, pale skin, windbreaker, jeans, hands in his pockets, harmless looking. But something about him felt off. When I walked into the store to pay, he followed me in. He didn't say anything at first, just stood near the back by the coolers. But as I was walking out, he said, "Your first pet was a tabby cat named Ranger. He died under the porch when you were 9. I stopped. I hadn't thought about that in years. I never told anyone how Ranger died. My parents said not to talk about it. I turned slowly. "How do you know that?" He smiled. "It wasn't your fault, you know. You were just a kid." Then he said my full name. First, middle, and last. I left immediately, got in the car, locked the doors, and pulled out. When I looked in the rearview mirror, he was still standing in the parking lot, staring, still smiling. I drove until I was back on the main highway, tried to shake it off. Maybe I looked familiar. Maybe I posted that story somewhere online years ago and forgot about it. But then, I saw headlights behind me. Same type of light pattern as the old truck that was parked behind the station, one I hadn't noticed at the time. The car followed me for miles. No matter what speed I went, it stayed back, always just far enough not to be obvious. No passing, no exits, just following. After nearly an hour, it disappeared. I should have felt relieved. I stopped at a roadside motel around 1:30 a.m., one of those places with no front desk, just a night window and a key drop. When I got to the room, the door was already unlocked. I stood there for at least a full minute. It looked empty inside. Lights off, no noise. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being lured in. I checked the bathroom, the closet, under the bed. Nothing. But on the desk was a small leather notebook. I thought maybe the last guest had left it behind, until I opened it. The first few pages were about me, not just surface-level details, but memories, private thoughts, moments I had never said out loud, the time I nearly drowned when I was 5 and didn't tell anyone, the exact words I muttered in the mirror, the night I broke down last year. Then the notebook changed. The next 10 pages were predictions, dated entries, specific names and times. August 19th, tire blowout, 11:43 a.m., survived. September 2nd, promotion email from Lisa at 8:57 a.m. October 9th, you'll wake up at 3:17 a.m. to knocking. I started shaking. Most of the dates were in the future, but one, just one, was today's date. And on that page was only 2 words. He's here. There was a knock at the door, 3 soft knocks, then silence. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I didn't even breathe. Eventually, the knocking stopped. I waited another 20 minutes before I peeked out. There was no one there. Just the same man from the gas station, standing under the parking lot light across the street, holding a cigarette, still smiling. He waved. I stayed locked in that room until the sun came up. I don't know who he was, or what that notebook was. I burned it the next day. But the weirdest part? His last page, the one with today's date? It was written in my handwriting. Same curve in the H, same tilt on the S, as if I had written it without remembering. I haven't talked about this in years. It happened when I was 9 years old. My cousins and I used to spend part of every summer at our grandparents' house, a big, old farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by woods, cornfields, and silence. That house always felt weird, not haunted exactly, just off, like certain rooms were waiting for you to walk in, or like the halls were a little too long. But that summer, the one when we played our last game of hide and seek, changed everything, because one of us never came back. It was me, my cousin Aiden, and my younger cousin Maya. The farmhouse was huge, 2 floors, attic, basement, creepy barn outside. So we always played hide and seek indoors after dark. Grandma said not to go into the attic or the barn. She said those places were meant to be left alone. So naturally, we dared each other to hide near both. It was my turn to seek. I counted to 50 while facing the living room wall, just like always. Lights off, only the moonlight through the windows. It was quiet, too quiet. But when I opened my eyes, I felt something was wrong, like someone had stepped into the room just as I turned. I found Aiden first, behind the long hallway curtain upstairs. Then I found Maya, curled up in the bathtub with the curtain drawn. We were all laughing, talking about who'd be it next. But then Maya said, "What about the other one?" We stopped. "What other one?" I asked. She said, "The boy hiding under the bed, in the guest room. I saw his foot sticking out." I looked at Aiden. He looked at me. We both shook our heads. We were the only 3 grandkids there that week. No other kids. We went to the guest room together. The door was cracked open. I remember the chill I felt, not just cold, but the kind that creeps under your skin. The bed was low to the ground, heavy quilt draped over the side. We crouched, lifted the blanket, and saw nothing. No foot, no body, just dust. Maya insisted she saw someone. I asked, "What did the foot look like?" She said, "It didn't have a sock. It looked dirty, and the toes were wrong." That night, Aiden vanished, just gone. We searched every room, screamed his name, ran outside. Nothing. The adults searched for hours. The police came, dogs, helicopters. He was never found. We all told the same story. We were just playing hide and seek. We found each other. Then we heard about a 4th person. But that's where our stories ended. No one believed the 4th kid part. They thought it was trauma, panic, a mistake. My family never visited the farmhouse again. 16 years later, I was cleaning out a box of old junk from my parents' attic. Inside, I found a dusty camcorder. I recognized it immediately. It was Grandpa's. He used to record everything. It still had a tape in it. I charged the battery and pressed play. The tape showed the night we were playing. I saw myself counting. I saw Maya hiding. I saw Aiden behind the curtain. And then, I saw something else. A 4th kid, barefoot, dirty, hunched in the guest room doorway, watching all of us. I paused the tape, rewound, played again. That 4th figure was never moving when we looked at him, only when our backs were turned. There's one final shot, from the hallway. The camera must have been left recording. In it, I see Aiden walking toward the attic door, and the 4th kid is waiting at the top of the stairs, smiling. I turned the tape off. 2 days later, the camcorder was gone. I never told anyone I found it, but every once in a while, I hear scratching under my bed. And last week, I found a small footprint on the wooden floor. It didn't have a sock, and the toes were wrong.